Hello and welcome to the InsideStylists Podcast, where we talk all about interiors. From interviews with interior stylists, writers and assistants to trend forecasters, Instagram experts and the up-and-coming brands we all want to feature. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner. Enjoy the show. Hello and happy Christmas. Not long to go now, a couple of days until the big day. This is going to be a solo episode and I'm going to be talking all about Christmas presents and why I think Christmas presents are quite hard to buy for people who work in interiors. Whether you're a stylist or a writer or you're an influencer, there are certain things that happen throughout the year that make us trickier to buy for than the average person. Actually, other than father-in-laws. I think father-in-laws are quite tricky to buy for as well. So, number one, we get to see what's coming into the shops really early. All the things that are in the shops now, we obviously saw back at Christmas in July. So we know where things are from. We know how much they cost. We see them all the time. We see them way ahead of everybody else. So that's something that people have on their minds when they're buying us gifts. Number two, we put together mammoth Christmas gift lists. So again, we've seen it all before and we've seen a lot of it. Number three, we're very privileged in that we get to go to press launches and we get given things throughout the year. Press gifts, candles, notebooks, all sorts of things throughout the year. So we are kind of gifted items regularly, which is lovely, but I think it makes buying for us that little bit harder. Number four, we are style conscious. I think everyone has their own kind of interiors vibe, whether they're maximalist, minimalist, you might like Scandi, you might like mid-century modern. Buying for that genre, you have to be really on top of it. And I think people don't always know that, or they do know it, and that makes it hard as well. And lastly, if I'm being completely truthful, if we want something, we pretty much go and buy it. We're in that kind of time where when you want something, you get it. I'm not son. He was born on the 16th of December. For that Christmas, absolutely all the family were united in happiness, which was lovely. That is really lovely. So some of the other questions I asked were, what would you absolutely love to receive this year with no price limit? Let's dream a little here. Here are the responses. A round the world plane ticket. Oh, I wonder if that person wants to style at the same time. Or maybe just shop. A puppy. I long for a dog. Or tickets to Canada. Get the dog. I've got one sleeping literally behind me in the sunshine. It's the best thing ever. Definitely experiences over things for me, although there are quite a few books on my list to Santa. If I could wave a magic wand, it would be to access one of the world's top art galleries without the crowds. Now, when I read this one, I thought that's really interesting because I don't know if stylists know. I did write a blog post about this a couple of years ago. I'll link it through in the show notes. But as press, you can be put on the press preview lists for art galleries, and you can go to the press previews are when exhibitions open and curators and the sponsors of the exhibit and the curators of the show do a walk around the exhibition, and you get to go ahead of it opening. Usually it's the day before, and I've been to loads of these. I went to the David Bowie exhibition at the V&A. I went to the Picasso and the Liechtenstein. I've been to Matisse. I've done all of these exhibitions, and you go the day before. You get to go around when there are a lot of people there, but there's a lot less. But you really get to stand up close. And I've been when it's open, and you can hardly get to read the blurb on the walls, let alone see the art. So whoever wrote that one, just know you can sneak in. I'll link through to that blog post though, because there's a Vincent van Gogh exhibition coming next year to the Tate Modern, and I am beside myself excited and can't wait to go to that. So if anyone wants to come, let me know, because I'll do a little meet-up. Anyway, next one. I would love to receive a piece of Alex Mayhew's glass-painted artwork with a meaningful word or quote. That's a lovely idea. A pretty Kenwood mixer. I just couldn't justify buying one during Black Friday, and it was still so much money. I figured my slow vintage orange handheld mixer will do until I have 500 disposable income cash. Yeah, I've actually got a KitchenAid and I've got a handheld, and I tell you, I use the handheld way more than I use the KitchenAid. But I used to bake a lot more. But I can see why you'd want one. Okay, the next one, I think everyone listening will probably say, yes, I would love that too. A limitless gift card for Liberty department store with the whole store to myself whenever I wanted. Like the scene in Pretty Woman, only fewer clothes and more homewares. Yes, and fabrics. Fabrics too. I would love that. Oh, a tiny little Georgian house with creaking doors and sloping floors. I know someone with one of them. I would love one of them. A week in a skiing chalet, all paid, complete with everything needed, from food and booze to a hot tub and board games. With my husband and all my children and my friend Amanda and her family too. With all mod cons and the house to be amazing and traditional looking with deep snow and fondues. A big fireplace and lots of faux sheepskins. And Dean Martin singing Let It Snow on loop. How idyllic does that sound? That's a brilliant idea. And the last one, the brand new 2019 Range Rover Evoque car in Yulong white. And the next question I asked was, what's the worst Christmas gift you've ever received and why? I'm going to put in my little gift in here at some point. Okay, the first response. A wine bottle holder in the shape of a leopard print stiletto. That sounds lovely. It's so useless and heavy too. It came from my mother, so I can't give it away. I would disagree. You can give that away. Out-of-date chocolates. Who hasn't been given out-of-date chocolates? That's awful. I am difficult to buy for, and anything clothes related is generally a disaster. My mother-in-law discovered this when she bought me a pink, sparkly cheesecloth scarf and then spotted it at the top of the charity shop bag next time she came to visit. Oops. The worst Christmas gift I've ever received was years ago. Was a jumper from River Island. It was a cricket jumper, but in baby pink. I hadn't warmed to pink yet and have always hated V-neck jumpers. It was the wrong size, it felt cheap and tacky. Consequently, I never wore it. Cheap toiletries, especially nasty smelling hand creams that just don't soak into your skin. They go straight to the charity shop gods. We get given a lot of hand creams in press gifts, don't we? I seem to have an abundance of them, and I have to say, you do get quite picky in the... Oh, I have some L'Occitane, which is the best one ever, and my husband bought it for me for Hanukkah Armadillo this year, but he bought it for me for my birthday last year. So I actually have 2 lots of this massive tube of hand cream, and it's the best one. So when I get them for press gifts, I tend to keep them for my daughter to give as gifts, like re-gifting them. Probably shouldn't say that here, should I? If any of her friends are listening, I buy them all. Honest I do. Next one, a faux fur jumper. One size too small from my mother. Need I say more? I'm getting a feel that jumpers are a bit of a theme here of don't go there. I think if you ever buy clothes, you have got to have a gift receipt in there so people can swap it if they don't like it or if it doesn't fit or anything. Also, if someone gets you a size too smaller, that's almost a compliment, isn't it? I pointed out exactly the piece of jewellery I wanted, but when it came to Christmas, the piece to the left was given to me. Not my taste at all. Another present was a ring my daughter was allowed to choose when she was in her Barbie phase. I can imagine. When I was 18, my auntie-in-law gave me a men's size 8 slippers. When I opened them and looked horrified at the Yeti size brown moccasin slippers she bought me, she didn't bat an eyelid and said she was glad I liked them. My mouth had dropped in shock, not gratitude. Now, I'm going to have to share a story here. It's kind of safe for me to do this because Mr. MT doesn't really listen to this podcast, so I can share this with you. Let's just keep it between us because I still think he doesn't realise. But when I was 40, I was very excited about turning 40 and I opened up my present. I also got slippers for my 40th from my husband. And they weren't moccasins and they weren't Uggs, they weren't sheepskin, they weren't anything like that. They were slipper socks. And I was a little bit upset to the point that I still talk about it to this day. Actually, the good thing that came out of this is that what I now do is, I think, in fact, for my 41st birthday present, around the time I said to my girls, if Dad asks what to get me for my birthday, I would really like a Bosch drill with a cord. And I just said it very subtly, and I'd never done that before. Well, of course, that was brilliant for him. He got told exactly what I wanted. And I got it. And it is still to this day one of the best presents I've ever been given. So the year after that, I said exactly the same. If Dad happens to mention what he should get me for my birthday, I'd really like a super duper drill set to go with my Bosch drill. And of course, I got that too. And then this year, I wanted a circular saw, and I got that too. I'm thinking that if you take the guesswork out for people who are not good at buying presents, it's all good. But it all stems from those slippers. So the person who wrote this about getting size 8 slippers, men's size 8, not even women's size 8, I completely feel your pain. So now for the emotional side of gifting. What makes a perfect gift? And I think everyone pretty much agrees with what everyone's responses were. The thought that's gone into it. I would rather have something inexpensive but special than something big, showy that's not me at all. Something thoughtful or beautiful. A bit of luxury that you wouldn't buy for yourself. I think that's a really good thing. I try and do that quite a lot. I remember Rachel Ogden and I were invited to a birthday party. I don't know if you remember this, Rachel. But we went for a meal for a colleague's birthday, and she gave her a tiny little box. And when she opened it up, it was a Chanel nail varnish. And I thought, that is perfect. That is the kind of thing you probably wouldn't buy for yourself. It's quite extravagant because it's like 25 quid for a nail varnish, but it's a perfect gift. And I've given people that so many times now. It's a small luxury that you wouldn't gift yourself. Things like that really stick with you. Thanks for that, Rachel. That was brilliant. Something small, simple and thoughtful. Yeah, things that come in small boxes usually are good, aren't they? When I give gifts, I like to think about what the person's style is, what they like, and usually I think of a theme I work around, such as an outdoorsy theme or a pampering theme. You can buy different items that a person may not buy for themselves and create the present with 3 or more items, such as a coffee table book about camping or a treehouse, some beautiful wool socks and an enamel splatter pattern mug. These things on their own may not seem like much, but all together they create a lovely gifting experience. You can wrap them up individually with different coordinated paper and trimmings, and it's a lovely thing to receive. It's something that's obviously been thought about by the gift giver. It's also lovely when the giver incorporates vintage or antique items, as that makes them so much more personalised. I think that's such a lovely idea to put a few things together that are on a theme. I love that. What makes the perfect gift? Something that I need that has been thought about. But yes, I think I'm really hard to buy for. This year I had to give my fella a list. I'd rather have something I want or is practical than a gift that is wasted and not used. Commercialism makes me so sad this time of year. The commercialism side of things, it kind of upsets me too. It's like, especially with the kids get so many things now. It's like, I'm trying to be really conscious that it's not going to just end up in a cupboard somewhere. But yeah. Also with the kids, we've done Amazon gift lists now. They instead of doing letters to Santa, they do wish lists on my Amazon account, and it just means they're getting exactly what they want. And quite often now that they're teens, it's like clothing quite a lot of the time. But yeah, lists aren't a terrible idea. What makes the perfect gift? Something that's personal to me. I love the thought of knowing that when that person made or found it, they thought, ooh, that's perfect for Matthew. Also an Apple Watch. I would really love an Apple Watch. I love that. Last one. Bonkers and thoughtful. Probably antique and not at all mainstream, as well as scent. Yes, I'm completely with you on that one. I think that's very well thought of. So that's it. It's a really short and sweet episode. I really wish you all the most incredible Christmas and an amazing Happy New Year. I'd like to thank everybody for helping me with the podcast, everyone who's been a guest, people who've been listening, all the help that I've had with questions on the Facebook group and to pull everyone together. I've absolutely loved doing this podcast this year. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I really feel like it's picking up speed now, and I'm kind of in my flow. And I interviewed someone a couple of days ago, and when we stopped recording, he said, "You're very good at your job," and I thought, he means I'm very good at talking, doesn't he? But I took that as such a compliment. I was so touched. But I think it's because I'm enjoying it so much. So it's going to carry on. I've got 4 or 5 podcast recordings lined up for January. They're getting it's getting very interesting, lots of trend forecasters, lots of people in the industry that we can kind of get into real nitty gritty details about, kind of how businesses are running. If there's anyone you would love me to interview, if you want to hear the backstory of other people, I'd love to know who that would be. So this was going to be the last podcast of the year. I was going to have a couple of weeks off and come back fresh in January to have a bit of time with my family. But yesterday I had an accountability call with Sophie Warren-Smith, and we had a little bit of a review of the year, which we did last year. And it's very interesting. But looking back at what we planned this time last year and seeing what we had achieved and what we hadn't achieved and what we wanted to, well, we didn't really talk about goals for the new year. We're going to do that next week. But I thought it might be interesting to share that process with you. There's been quite a lot of talk about planners and kind of your year in review and planning your goals. And it's been massively beneficial for me this year. I've had a lot of goals. I mean, getting the podcast up, getting the website up, getting people on the site, building the momentum of the whole thing. And it takes a lot of planning to do that. And I wanted to just share my process. I'm also going to find some other places you can download them, but I will do a free downloadable for people to print off while you've got a bit of time to think, because I think that's what it takes. It takes that I'm not working, switch off between Christmas and New Year. Let's have a real think about what we want from 2019. Do we want to shoot for someone? Do we want to write for someone? Do we want to work with a particular brand? It's kind of putting all of that on paper, and it just puts your mindset in the right place. So I'm going to do that next Friday, and then I'm going to have 2 weeks off and start fresh in January. Got so many exciting things planned for next year. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited. Anyway, until next week, I wish you the most fantastic Christmas. Have some lovely downtime, some time with your friends and family. I hope the sun carries on to shine as it is right now, because it's very uplifting. And see you next week or in the new year. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist Podcast. You'll find all the details from today's show over on InsideStylists.com. Until next time, bye for now.